Alright guys, so what I have for you today is another deck tech. Look for the video of actual gameplay of this deck to come out probably in just a day or two after this video is up. So what deck tech I have today for you guys is Superfriends. So as you guys know, Superfriends, or as you may not know, but as most of you know, Superfriends is a Planeswalker based deck. So Super Friends decks have been around for quite a while. I don't know of any Super Friends decks that are out right now. But what I wanted to do was make just a Planeswalker based deck. So some of the inspiration for this was, well, the new set coming out is supposed to have 36 Planeswalkers. With 36 Planeswalkers, that's quite a few Planeswalkers, right? So I'm hoping that my deck will motivate some of you guys to go out there and check out this new set and what it's going to be like playing with a bunch of Planeswalkers in Standard. So I'll go through every card on here one by one in just a second, but kind of an overview of the deck. What you're hoping to do is survive long enough so that you get out some Planeswalkers and then just take over the game with your Planeswalkers. That's really the main idea. It is a 4-color deck, so I did not want to do red, so there are a couple Planeswalkers like Ralzeric and the new one I believe is Domri that I could have put in if I wanted to do red, but I didn't want to cut a color, and I felt like red was the best color to cut in my opinion for this deck. So without any further ado, let's go on ahead and get into this deck tech. So over on the left hand side here, we see Moment of Craving. Moment of Craving is amazing for any deck that is trying to survive long enough to do something. And the reason for that is because it can kill a creature and it can gain you life. Those are two important things that you need against aggro decks: killing creatures and gaining life to stay alive. Next, Reclamation Sage. So this is a weird one, right? I hate that 6-mana artifact that says Planeswalker abilities can't be activated. That's one of the reasons that it's in here, because it destroys that artifact. There are also just a lot of artifacts and enchantments overall in the whole set, so I want to get rid of some of those. Another thing that I have in here is Mortify. So Mortify also gets rid of an enchantment. It also can hit a creature instead, so against those decks that are playing the early game, right? So you can get rid of those creatures on that against that early game, kind of similar to what the Moment of Craving did. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about in this deck is the Gift of Paradise. So Gift of Paradise gains you 3 life. Helps against that aggro, right? Because it's gaining you some life. It also lets your land tap for 2 mana of any one color, so it helps fix your mana. So it does 2 things in one. Love that for this deck. Dovin, our first Planeswalker of the deck. So this lets you put out Thopters, lets you +1 to get some loyalty back on him. Ultimate, not too great. Lets you draw some cards though. Kaya, probably the worst Planeswalker in here. I wanted some diversity though. She also can get rid of non-land permanents with converted mana cost of 1, so helps against those aggro decks, helps against Land War Elves, things like that. She can also gain you some life, so she is pretty good. Chromatic Lantern. So Chromatic Lantern, pretty simple. Lands can tap for any color mana, and it itself taps for any color mana. So I did want a little bit of help with fixing that mana. Chromatic Lantern doesn't gain you the life like that Gift of Paradise does, though. So I wanted to just stick in one Chromatic Lantern. Main reason for that, like I said, is because, well, I don't want to be drawing multiples of Chromatic Lantern, because, I mean, Chromatic Lantern is great because it fixes that mana, but in multiples it's not super great. Ixalan's Binding. So this is important because it's against Planeswalkers that we play against, so it gets rid of those Planeswalkers. Settle the Wreckage against aggro decks, mostly. Gets rid of their creatures. Kaya's Wrath, same idea as Settle the Wreckage. A little bit harder to cast with double black, but I did 2 in 1 because Settle the Wreckage is only attacking creatures. Kaya's Wrath is all creatures. Vraska, another Planeswalker, great, can kill creatures. The low mana cost ones can kill just any kind of permanent low mana cost. Can also, whenever you're in a bind, draw you some cards, gain you some life. Karn gains you life, puts you out creatures. Or doesn't gain you life, sorry. Lets you look at cards. Get more cards, so you're basically drawing cards with Karn, and it gets you more creatures. So overall, Karn, great addition to the deck. It is also colorless, which is important because that means that I can play it no matter what kinds of lands that I have out. Cleansing Nova, more of that creature kill. Tezzeret, draws you cards, puts out creatures. Very similar to Karn, 1 more mana. Tezzeret, probably not the best card in here. It does have an ultimate that's pretty fun. Lets you get a permanent, put it on the battlefield. And one of the main reasons that I'm making this deck is for fun. So that's why there's a 1 of Tezzeret in here. Vivian, not the best when we first look at her, but her minus is really what we're using her for. So that -3 to destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. So that's what we really need her in here for. Her plus lets you look at the top 4 cards, put 1 of the creatures or lands among them into your hand. Now, you don't have a lot of creatures in here. You've really only got Reclamation Sage. But you do have a lot of lands that you need. And again, helping get those lands, even once she's out at that 5 mana cost, even once she's out, it's still important that you get consistent land drops. So she's really good at getting those lands with that plus. If we'd ever get to her ultimate, which I doubt we will, but if we ever do, her ultimate's also really good because it gives your creatures indestructible, makes them bigger, have vigilance and trample, and that's really good for all these tokens that are going to be our real kill conditions here. Teferi, great, draws you cards, gets rid of permanents, puts them back in their library, and it can exile permanents if we ever get to that ult. Have 3 of those, have 1 of the special Teferis that I got for being in the beta, or the, I guess, alpha, whatever it was, way back in the day. Vraska, 1 of Vraska, she's great. Love her. She is a kill condition herself. She puts out those creatures every turn. She gets rid of artifact, creature, or enchantment. She can get rid of anything that you want, basically. And then we have a bunch of lands. So, no basics, because we are running 4 colors. So it's just a bunch of non-basics. So that is our deck. Like I said, just look in the next day or so. So again, this is just a quick deck tech on it. Look in the next day or so for some games actually being played with this deck. So Super Friends games will come out very soon after this.